Jihad in Afghanistan didn't go away. In fact, this is why Al-Qaeda was formed. In the first place, Al-Qaeda was formed out of the remnants of the Maktab al-Qidamah, with the idea that as that war in Afghanistan was ending, those who had put so much time, energy, and resources into building this infrastructure did not want to see it just disappear just because that one particular effort had gone away. And what they wanted to do was to establish an organization that could truly serve as the vanguard for a broader jihadist effort to defend Muslim lands around the world. And we see continued activity here in the United States. One of the key individuals that we've seen in this time period is the Blind Sheikh, as most people know, but Umar Abdul-Rahman, as you see on the slide here, was an Egyptian, part of the Islamic group in Egypt that took part of the assassination of Sadat in 1981. The Blind Sheikh came to the United States in 1990 and settled in New York City on a tourist visa, despite the fact that his name was on the U.S. State Department watch list at the time. So he comes to the United States, situated in New York City, and interestingly, what we see at this time is a bit of a power struggle within some of this infrastructure that was in existence in the U.S., in New York City in particular. So looking at the Al-Qifa Refugee Center in Brooklyn, and the Al-Farouk Mosque, there was a power struggle between those who were supporters of Abdullah Azzam and those who came in supporters of the Blind Sheikh. And ultimately, the Blind Sheikh wins out, assumes control of the pulpit at that particular facility, and used it as a means to further his objectives here in the United States. He and his followers were active in terms of recruiting individuals to join other jihadi movements. As the Bosnian effort picked up, and ultimately Chechnya as well, we see that this infrastructure is used to recruit individuals to support jihadist efforts around the world. Of course, the most significant event at this time period was the 1993 attack against the World Trade Centers, which was linked back to this same network. This car bomb went off in February 1993 in the basement of the North Tower, intended to crash the North Tower into the South Tower and bring down both. Obviously, that did not happen, but the bomb did kill 6 people and injured over 1,000. Obviously, a seminal event when we look at jihadist activity here in the United States. Following this attack, the Al-Qifa Refugee Center was shut down, but as I mentioned before, the infrastructure that was in place was still relatively significant. So operations were moved to other facilities, to Boston and elsewhere. So this stuff didn't necessarily go away. And we see continued plotting. We saw in 1995 what's known as the Landmarks Plot, which was an effort by the same network to conduct attacks against a series of key landmarks in New York City, to include the Lincoln Holland Tunnels, the United Nations, George Washington Bridge, and also the FBI's office here in New York City. Ultimately, this effort was thwarted due to some information from an individual who had infiltrated the organization. So we do have significant plots going on here in the United States throughout the 90s. Again, to draw the point that the history did not start on 9/11. Failure of the Landmarks Plot, however, obviously drew some increased attention on this particular threat and on these issues, and some of the activities that were undertaken at the time sort of led to the downfall of this particular aspect of the movement. A lot of these guys were rolled up and were put in jail, and are still in jail. And at this time, sort of the mid-90s time period, this network of American jihadists, or jihadists based in the United States, had started to teeter a little bit, and was in danger of collapsing completely. But what we see, of course, is Al-Qaeda. This is around the time that Al-Qaeda starts rising up. It moved to Sudan, situated there for the early 90s. Bin Laden issued a fatwa in 1996, another one in 1998, explicitly declaring war against the United States. So people start to pick up and take notice. We've got the UC bombings in 98, the Cole bombing in 2000. So these are international activities, yes, but Al-Qaeda maintained a presence here in the United States, at least in terms of recruitment, not necessarily in terms of significant infrastructure, but in terms of utilizing these networks that have been in existence for at this point many years. Use these networks to recruit individuals and to bring individuals into the fold. They also participated in recruiting for other jihads in Bosnia and elsewhere. And we see several significant individuals coming from the United States and participating in the activities of Al-Qaeda, individuals who became interested in this activity back in the 80s through the Al-Qifa Refugee Center. But we get, again, a guy named Wadi al-Hajj, who was a key secretary to Bin Laden, came from the United States, was connected to the 1993 plotters, lived in the United States for many years, and was based with Bin Laden numerous other people as well who were part of this network who came from the United States and grew out of this infrastructure here in the United States. So the organization remained active in the U.S. We see this rise of global jihadism and the significance of recruiting. Some of the individuals whose names became familiar to us after 9/11 were actually recruited and brought into the fold prior to this time period. You hear names like Jose Padilla, the so-called dirty bomber. Obviously, you can get several questions about what that plot really was and all about, but nonetheless, he was an individual who came into the fold through these networks. A guy named Shukrajuma, who was a key operational planner for Al-Qaeda today. Spent significant time in the United States in this time period before leaving in 2000, 2001, I believe. So individuals that are names that are of note today came into the fold prior to 9/11 during the 1990s. One particular individual who's always interesting to talk about is this guy right here. Does anybody know who this is? Adam Gadam, yes. So it looks like a kid who sort of sits in the corner of your high school cafeteria. You're not really sure about him. He's a very interesting character, and he came from a very interesting background. His parents, his father was sort of a counterculture, hippie, psychedelic rock type of guy out in California. His grandfather was Jewish and was active in that community. Again, somewhat ironic. But Gadam converts to Islam in California, becomes connected with a couple of individuals who are believed to have ties back to Al-Qaeda, or at least Al-Qaeda affiliated networks. Again, it's a much more long and twisted story that's very interesting, including this time period spent devoted to death metal and became significantly involved in the death metal community. Ultimately, he didn't find what he was looking for in that type of obsession and turned to something different in religion. The religion he found was Islam. Gets connected with some bad folks, and ultimately decides to travel overseas to pursue this interest. Ends up in Pakistan. That's him today, and that's where he's hanging out today. It's a relatively senior member of the Al-Qaeda organization. When he first got over there, he became involved in media activities, was involved with producing videos. He had some technological skills that allowed him to contribute. He's now seen as one of, if not the heads of the Al-Sahab organization, which is Al-Qaeda's media branch, and he appears in numerous videos. He appeared in his first video in 2004, and appeared in numerous videos since, advocating for Jihad. His message has evolved over time, and through a number of different reasons, whether it's leadership attrition or some improved performance on his perspective, he is becoming more important to the movement. Again, primarily because a lot of the other guys have disappeared. We won't say how, it's still a classified program, right? Even though it's on the front page of the New York Times every day. But anyway, Adam Gadam is just a fascinating individual, American citizen, grew up in the United States. Again, if you look back at the first picture I showed, it'd be hard to place him as somebody who would fall into this type of community. But there he is, a relatively senior member of the Al-Qaeda organization, and when he came into the fold prior to 9/11. But then, of course, we do have 9/11, and in the aftermath of those events, the intelligence and law enforcement communities moved quite swiftly to arrest numerous Al-Qaeda-linked or Al-Qaeda sympathetic individuals and networks here in the United States. Groups in Boston, California, Lackawanna, New York, Portland, and elsewhere. In numerous cases in the early part of the decade. And what we see is this infrastructure, which I described as sort of building up over time, or fluctuating over time, I should say, was pretty much well dismantled due to the significant efforts of the law enforcement community here in the United States. But it doesn't go away. Any questions so far? Moving pretty quickly through this one, I want to build and sort of lay the foundation for why it's important to understand that these networks are networks, they're not just individuals, and that they have been around for quite some time. Two peripheral groups that I want to mention because they are somewhat in the fold, if not expressly or explicitly involved in such activities. One is Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is an international organization, an international Islamic organization that seeks to establish a global caliphate governed under Sharia law. So it's an organization that, from an ideological perspective, is in the same ballpark, if you will, as jihadist organizations such as Al-Qaeda. But it's a group that does not openly advocate violence is a branch here in the United States, Hizb ut-Tahrir America, or HTA, that was founded in the early 90s by an individual out in California and also another individual who was in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Chicago area. So the name of the organization means Party of Liberation. And Hizb ut-Tahrir America's goals are the same, essentially, as the global organization, which is the installation and implementation of Sharia law as the sole source of law, tailored to the United States in terms of,
Brian, these groups that are forming here in the United States, they are constitutionally protected groups that are allowed to do so here in the United States.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And that's the key feature here is these groups are small. Again, for all the groups and individuals I'm going to talk about over the course of today, we're not talking anybody that operates in even close to the mainstream political discourse or religious discourse. These are fringe groups, fringe elements, and I'll talk a little bit about some of the numbers. But they're groups of interest in that some of the individuals we are interested in traverse through these organizations. But exactly as you said, these are legal organizations. HTA does not advocate violence here in the United States. It calls itself a non-violent political strategy. It does promote the idea of defensive jihad, so classical jihad overseas. So it does see as just the activity of jihadists fighting against invading militaries in traditional Muslim lands. It sees that as just activity, but it openly states that it does not advocate conducting violence here in the United States. So this is an important distinction. These organizations that try to operate on the legal side of defense. This HTA has had California, that's the magazine they published to push some of these issues out. Nice play on obviously the state and spelling of Caliph or Caliphate. The organization has had 2 conferences here in the U.S., one in 2009 and one in 2011. They tried to plan a 2010 conference, but their contract facility fell through, or the conference facility fell through. Because the facility took a lot of heat for hosting such a conference. The latest conference, I believe, only had about 250 attendees. So again, sparsely populated types of activities, but nonetheless of interest because they operate in the same general veins as some organizations that are of more concern. So while this group does not advocate for violent activity here in the U.S., we have seen a couple of individuals who have attempted to execute violent activity, who have traversed through this community. Again, not to say that the organization itself sanctioned or had any role in planning a particular activity, but it's a forum for individuals to express ideas, to talk with like-minded individuals about certain theories, and enables them to sort of identify a broader community of like-minded folks, which if they are so inclined to take that next step to something violent, they might find another willing participant operating in the same general milieu. An example here is Farouk Ahmed, who's an individual who was arrested in October 2010. If you recall, he was the one who was attempted to conduct an explosive attack against the Washington, D.C. metro system. His hotel room contained HTA literature when the law enforcement went in to take a look at it. Again, this does not mean that HTA had any role in planning the attack. It's just a point to make that these types of organizations provide an environment, almost in the way that a group like, or an organization like Facebook provides an environment for a bunch of knuckleheads to get together and talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. Not a perfect example, but you get the point in that organizations like these are of concern, in that the words that they're speaking are clearly against what we would hope people here in the United States are saying, but they do operate on the legal side of the fence in terms of not openly advocating violence here in the U.S. Another such organization is Jamaat al-Muslimin, or the Society of Muslims. It was founded sometime between 1995 and 2000. It's based out of Baltimore and has some representatives in various other states around the country. Estimated at one point in 2010, I think the estimate was around 100 to 200 members. I'm not sure exactly what it is today. They push their message out through this magazine, The New Trend. And most of the material is focused again on this idea of classical jihad, of fighting jihad overseas against invading armies of Muslim majority countries. So again, we operate on the legal side of the fence in terms of not only advocating violence here in the U.S. But we see, again, various characters operating and passing through these types of organizations. Antonio Martinez, who's a convert who was involved with a plot to bomb a Maryland military recruiting center, attended a mosque that was run by JAM at that time. So again, the organization itself did not have a role in that plot, did not have knowledge of that plot as far as I know. But you see individuals who do take the next step, who transit through these types of organizations. Okay, so I got you through to the sort of 2003 time period, the period right after 9/11, when I mentioned that significant law enforcement activity had done a pretty good job of constraining some of these organizations. And what we see at this point is a regeneration of some of these networks, happening primarily through online activity. A lot of press about online jihadism, jihadi web forums, all these types of things that we see reported in the press a lot. This really started springing up around this time. And you see a couple different networks that were out there. Islamic Networking Forum, Muslim Pad was a website or a website connected with the Islamic Networking Forum. Forums such as these really formed the epicenter or backbone for this first generation of Americans who were dedicated to online jihad and actively spoke about jihad and conversed about jihad in online forums, whether it's chat rooms, web forums, or more recently today on places like Facebook or YouTube, comment sections. These types of forums provide an easy means of communication between like-minded individuals. So again, we see these entities start springing up around the early to mid part of the last decade. Individuals like Sarfaz Jamal, who is a name not known to too many people, who is one of the brainchilds behind this network of online activity. And we see several individuals who are a little bit more known, who have been arrested and are in most part jail because of their involvement in jihadist activities. Several of these individuals transited through these communities. Individuals like Daniel Maldonado from Massachusetts, who was captured in January 2000 in Kenya while leaving Somalia after supporting the Al-Shabaab fight there, or the broader Islamist movement there. He was an administrator of the Islamic Networking Forum. Before Maldonado went overseas, he was friendly with a guy named Tariq Mahana and Ahmed Abu Samra, another individual, and we're both from Sudbury, Massachusetts. These guys became close in 2002 and watched jihadi videos online, really sort of bonded over these types of activities. They remained in contact over the years via various online means, blogs, web forums, so on and so forth. And these individuals also tried to go overseas to join various jihadist groups. Not very successful, were turned away by numerous jihadist groups overseas, and ultimately came back to the United States and were implicated in the plot to conduct an attack here in the U.S. Again, interesting to see that these guys were initially trying to go overseas, weren't necessarily accepted by the organizations they encountered over there, so returned to the U.S. to try to do something here. But it wasn't just random actors. It's not just individuals who traverse through these communities. We have organizations and groups that sprung up in this time period that provided a forum for discussions of these type and activities of these type. One is the Islamic Thinker Society, which is an organization based out of here in New York City. Islamic Thinker Society, or ITS, was founded in 2004, as you see there, and it grew out of the Al-Majroon Group, which was a United Kingdom organization that was very active in the UK. The UK has a significant problem in terms of radical individuals espousing this type of ideology in public settings. Al-Majroon was a pro-Al-Qaeda or pro-Jihadi organization that was founded in 1996. Initially, someone affiliated with Terrorism, the group I mentioned earlier, but really stood out in terms of its militant language and its methodology. Its methodology was to use English-speaking preachers with significant charisma to talk about these issues, to talk about how the United States and its allies were at war against Islam, and really push these messages, but target not the traditional Arabic-speaking audiences that we saw as being the key targets of some of the networks from back in the 80s and 90s, but really targeting second and third generation Muslims who are natives to their country, are more integrated in society, might even speak their native or original languages. And so this message was pushed out in English in a very charismatic fashion, and this movement took on significant weight in the UK in this time frame, in the 1990s, I should say. There was Al-Majroon individuals who came over to the U.S. to try to stand up affiliates here in the U.S., and there was an Al-Majroon group that was primarily based out of New York City that operated here in New York starting around 2000. demonstrations and spoke publicly about some of these issues, helped organize speaking events. Two of the individuals who were active in the organization around this time in New York City were subsequently convicted of aiding al-Qaeda. So again, now we're getting to organizations that are much more closely tied to militant and violent activity. Although, as we'll talk about, they also try to skirt this line between legal and illegal activity. ITS was founded in August 2004. They claim on their website that their struggle was always intellectual and political, nonviolent means. Again, trying to make the point that they're talking about these issues, but they're not advocating violent activities here in the United States. Again, an effort to remain on the legal side of the fence. If people are a little more skeptical about an organization such as this, Mitch Silver with the NYPD, or formerly the NYPD, said that in a sense they're almost bug lights for aspiring jihadists. They've got an anti-Western, anti-democratic, anti-US, pro-al-Qaeda message, but don't openly advocate violent activity here in the United States. But you can see that the problematic issues that are raised by organizations such as this. They're talking about these things, they're advocating for certain activities, and they provide a forum for people who might be so inclined to take it a step further to come together. In terms of overall numbers, again, these are fringe groups, right? We're not talking significant numbers. ITS probably had a limited number of full-time members. Its rallies were usually relatively sparsely attended, but it was active online, a YouTube channel, Facebook page, and I think its Facebook page had around 200 subscribers, as did its YouTube channel. Although, of course, that doesn't mean that there aren't significant numbers of other individuals monitoring the postings on these sites in an anonymous fashion. One individual who's of note is Yusuf al-Khattab, who's a Jewish convert to Islam from New Jersey, who by 2007 was really sort of one of the primary figures of the front end for ITS at this time. And we're going to come back to him in a few minutes. Okay, so we see a couple other individuals who transit through these entities. The guys I mentioned earlier, Maldonado and Mahana, both were affiliated with ITS, ran in those circles, knew these guys, operated with them, and as I told you, ultimately became involved in jihadist activity overseas. Another individual who is much more of note at this point, given his untimely demise last year, Samir Khan, the individual right here. Samir Khan, for those of you who don't know him, was the individual who was responsible for Inspire magazine, the English language jihadist magazine that came out of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. And he was killed in the same drone strike that killed Amr al-Awlaki last year. He was an individual who was born in Saudi Arabia, but moved to Queens when he was 7 years old. By the time he was a teenager, he became involved in more radical activities, began to attend Islamic Thinker Society meetings, and became a significant online player in this community. He moved with his family down to Charlotte, North Carolina, where he continued to be active online. He ran various blogs. He had one blog titled The Ignored Puzzle Pieces of Knowledge. He operated under the handle Inshallah Shaheed, God willing, a martyr. And so he was an individual who was clearly advocating for jihad. Again, he was also very careful, like a lot of these organizations. He, from what I'm told, spoke with an attorney and got legal advice in terms of how much he could actually say on his blogs without being arrested. So he was very careful to know exactly what the legal boundaries were for what he could get away with and what he could say legally and what he could not. And so he was not arrested here in the United States, although he was watched. And one of the magazines he pushed out was called Jihad Recollections. And ultimately, he picks up in October of 2009, I believe, and decides to head over to Yemen to take a more active role in global jihad. And that's where he gets involved with AQAP, Inspire Magazine, al-Awlaki, so on and so forth. But again, an individual who grew up here in the United States, became engaged with this ideology, became engaged with these types of discussions through an organization like ITS. So while the organization itself does not openly advocate for conducting violent activity here in the United States, it provides a ready forum for those who are interested in these types of things to get together, to share ideas, to reinforce ideas amongst their community, and ultimately go and do things like Samir did, which I guess didn't work out so well for him in the long run, right? It's also interesting, too, with him, when we talk a lot about how the global jihadi elements influence what's going on here in the United States, but it's interesting to see the impact of a magazine like Inspire on the broader movement. I don't want to make more of it than there is. It's not the first English language jihadi publication, it won't be the last. But it was interesting to see the popularity that it gained, let's say in large part due to a lot of the attention that we ourselves put on it, but nonetheless it certainly gained significant popularity, was translated back into numerous other languages, Arabic, Russian, and several others. And as we see, an American creating an English publication ultimately has an impact on the global jihadi community, which I think is